Hey there everyone, welcome to episode 8 of the free modeling course that I'm doing here on YouTube. We've gone pretty far, but if I check out the front view and maybe hide some of these objects, we can see that we still have some side panel detailing right here, and we're going to make this super simple. And as well, we have the bottom guardrail, which we could see better if we isolate the back view, and we could see that shape on the inside. So it looks pretty complex to tackle, but I think one shape at a time will do us some good. So I'll hide these two for now. Actually, I'll hide these two and see what this image has to offer us. Yeah, I think this one's going to be better for now. So in the last video, we extruded this entire area back and we modeled the whole thing. And I noticed that it ends actually right here at the back. Doesn't seem like we're going to get the height exactly perfect. You know, that's totally okay. Unless that is a separate piece, which we could find out if we look at the front. So it actually looks like it is. There are these pieces that wrap around it. For the sake of sake, we should start with those. That might force us to unmirror this and handle things from there, but maybe we won't unmirror this, you know. This is low poly at the end of the day, and we have to find ways to save some energy and save some time. So let's see, I'm going to actually scale this up and then delete this edge loop. Didn't do as much for the form as I thought it would. We're going to optimize this at the end to get it really ready for a nice low poly render, and then you can totally share that with your friends, but right now we're in the building stage. So in this building stage, I notice I can kind of extract these edges. And then I can grab this one and just duplicate it and press P and break that off. So now I'm hunting for that piece by just clicking over and over. If I go to X-ray mode, I could flatten this out on the Z-axis. And so I'll see if we can clear this edge loop first. We can flatten this edge. Oh, look, we have a double vertice. So I'll actually snap that and see if we can merge it in. See if the same applies here. It doesn't. But I bet there's an extra one here, which there is. So I'll merge that. And you know what? I bet that was what was causing some issues with the beveling earlier, which it was. Since we're going with sharp edges, we're not going to need to do that, but I was wondering. So I'm bringing this shape back, and I am now going to scale this on the y-axis, except for this shape. Let me not do that. I'll check out that front view again. It does seem to be completely flat like that, and I'll see if selecting everything and extruding from normals with Alt-E will help me get the shape I need, and it gets us pretty damn far. So I'm going to select these edges down here and scale them downwards. And we'll figure out how to round this out. I want to press G, Shift Y, and that way I'm not moving it on the wrong axis. So it looks like I could bring this one out more. Out a lot more, actually. Do we need an extrusion? We might. So I'll extrude this out to cover the screw. I'll put a loop cut here. And I'll extrude it again. Now I'm going to check out what the best solution would be to bevel this edge. And it might be to just select this whole loop and press Ctrl B. I'm loosening those edges a little bit. I'm seeing if we need to round this out, which we might. So I'm going to bring this edge up. Bring this edge back. And then I think I'll just bevel this. Just this edge. Let's see if I could do it with just this bottom edge. And that's good enough for me. We'll just do 2. And I'm wondering if we need to round out this one more, which I might. So I'll actually lift it up, bring it out on the X, find the apex, and then select the whole loop and press Ctrl B. And I'm rounding that out a little bit more. So if I go back to the front view, that's kind of good enough for me. I'm looking through the X-ray at the reference image. That side is completely fine. This one might be the same, but ends up going behind. So we could be just a little bit lazy and see if a mirror modifier does the work for us. And let's see what works and what doesn't. So it doesn't really work, but maybe what we could do is apply the mirror modifier and then start editing this second one. So with everything selected now, I can bring that in, and it looks like we might need to bring both of these back a little bit. So it looks like this first one is more protruded than this second one, so I'm bringing it back. And it does dig itself into that area, so I'm going to see if just deleting these edges will help us out. And I'll delete these vertices, and it does help us out. I'll press click, 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 and we'll press F. We'll heal these faces, and this one's a little messed up, so we're going to drag it up, or even just merge that entire loop by dragging it up with double G, and it'll be removed. Let's see what we got going on. If I press shade auto smooth on these, maybe I want to bring them up to 60. That way it's smooth across that whole side. And that actually looks pretty decent to me, and I'm okay with those acting as the clips around here. Maybe I should have had that open beforehand. So we're going to do this side piece really quick, and there's all these little panel cuts and extrusions, but we're not going to really use that as a focus point, so we're not going to put as much detail into that. Let's make sure we have the front view correct. We do. It looks pretty good. I wonder if we can maybe scale this in. We'll just add a cube from here and see if we can eyeball it and jam it in. So that view's okay. Let's see what we got going on at the side view when it comes to this. It doesn't protrude through it at all. So that actually makes things a little bit more difficult. We might have to shape this up a bit. What I'll do is I'll go into edit mode, and we'll kind of copy these edge loops that we have going on from the original shell. And I'll lift them up. We could totally lower that. Let's see how high it is supposed to go. Maybe it goes deeper in this direction, less deep in this direction. So if I look at how the lighting hits it, this means it's rounded at the top, so that would definitely be beveled, and then this side seems to also be beveled. The only thing that concerns me is I think we need to bring this not only back, but we need to add some edge loops, because this could be just the most simple extrusion. So let's bring it back a bit. Let's bring it behind the window. And I'll add 2 edge loops. I'm going to scale them on the 0 on the Z-axis. And let's bring these bottom and top ones forward. Let's see how far it should be. We can hide these cutters. Let's make sure it's not breaking anything else. We'll bring this forward, and then this might suggest to me that we might need to bring these objects just a little bit more forward. We're playing a balancing act with all of these shapes. So we can see here it kind of does protrude a little bit, actually. It looks like what we'll do is we'll grab these vertices and kind of bring them up. And it looks like there is totally room for one area to at least be protruded. So I'm looking at where that's supposed to be, and I'm bringing it forward, and I want to match the width of this shell. So I'll even do the due diligence of slightly bending these to match it. And I definitely want to round this out big time. So I'm going to add a couple bevels right here. And then I'm going to grab these edges and bring them forward. Now I'll check out what's going on in this front image, and not too much, but I'm going to add maybe 2 edge loops through here. I can see what happens if I just delete this face and isolate this object. And we'll check it out of X-ray mode. See how far back we can go with that. So this is our little gap in there. On vertex snapping mode, I can press E and X and we'll snap into there. And I can press E and X, we'll snap into there. And I'll merge those vertices with the M key. Now we're joining faces together with F, and that's already pretty decent. I'll press Alt H. We can look at our images again. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking it could also round out as it goes towards us. So I'll hide this again, and what I'll do is I'll lift up this edge, then I'll take all of these vertices right here, except for these, so just these edges, and I'll bevel them as well. I'm going to keep this object isolated for a second, and what I'd like to do is see how much this bottom edge should bevel. I think that looks pretty good. If I go back out, it seems like this shell of the base hides it. So what we'll do is we'll get this edge loop, we'll just bring it more towards the side over here. That way we can kind of see the gap that's happening in between all these shells. In fact, we could sort of bring this area forward so that we cover the area of the buttons. So this might go out more than originally anticipated. But we just got to do what we got to do to bury this edge, or bury these buttons. So I'm even going to grab these. It doesn't look like beveling that will do us much good. Let's see if there is a better way to do it. Maybe we just grab these two. And if I bevel it, it's not actually destroying much. We do get some n-gons, but it's not so bad. And I think we even need to bring it forward a little bit more to cover this top button. So I'll just bring this all forward. Maybe it could even look interesting that it's going down like this. Again, we're just creating a game interpretation of these models to learn modeling in Blender. And we have to find that perfect balance so that the front extrusion isn't taken away. So maybe it should be around here. And to me, the way this fits together is the most decent interpretation of what I have. You know, I don't have an actual holographic sight to work with, but with these images, I think this model looks okay like this. Let's go to the reference image over here, and we can just quickly make the buttons. So let's go ahead and hide everything actually. And I'm going to add a polygon plane. And it looks like on the y-axis, we're going to scale it down just a little bit. And we'll observe the topology we can to make the arrows. We'll keep them low poly though. So we can add a loop cut right here for that edge. We can add some side edges, as well as these middle edges to keep them capped. And so then we can cap them off at the top over here. And let's see what happens if we scale all these ones in together like that. Would it create the arrow shape we are looking for? It most likely would. So we're going to scale these ones in as well. And we'll just select these faces and we can extrude them up. Then I can grab these bottom edges and extrude them out on the y-axis. That gives us a little bit of room we need. Turns out we don't need much room, so we can even scale them in. And then I'll grab all of the sides, extrude them down. And I do want to rebuild this face, even if it'll be a little bit difficult. What we could do is we could grab all of the top faces. This is kind of a cheat code. Grab all the top faces that are facing the camera, or at least if we were facing the top view. And what I'll do is I'll press Shift D and I'll press SZ0, and vertex snapping is on. So in vertex mode, I'll make this the active vertex and I'll press GZ, and now it matches perfectly if I press Alt N and flip. So I'll select everything, merge it together, and then I think we just need some very subtle rounded corners. So I'm going to make some room for these corners by grabbing these edges, because a thick bevel will overlap other vertices and we don't want to mess that up. So I'll press SY and bring those in. And now I'll just grab these edges and press Ctrl B. And I think that's decent enough for me. These will be really small. And we could put a control loop in the middle and see if adding a little bit of depth works, but we'll see. So I'll press Shade Auto Smooth, and yeah, I don't regret adding a little bit of depth to that. So let's move this out of the way. I'll press Alt H. I'll turn off our images. And I'll press RZ90, RY90, oops, RZ180. Let's hide our cutters and just place our object. Maybe I will turn on the images in X-ray just to make sure we're extra accurate with the scaling. Let's see if we need to hide another image to get a better view. And we did. And I'll just duplicate this and press R180. We could do the liberty of just evening out this button placement. You know, for now, as I look at this more and more, I'm thinking I don't want to have that small bulge in the arrows. So I'm going to press SZ0 or SX0, and those actually look a little bit better. Now what's going on is with the cutter, I think I can make them a little bit less steep, and that way the cutter should actually be a bit bigger. So maybe I'll keep them the same on that axis, but I'll grab the front and I'll bring that in. Now these buttons should actually be a lot bigger. If I hide it, they definitely are. I'll even push that a little bit farther. And that should reach exactly what the original design intention was, and that is looking pretty good. So that's the side. These are the bottom pieces, and now we're going to work on the guardrail on the back. So that is this spot. It should be pretty easy, hopefully not too tough. So I'm checking out what this piece is, and I know for certain we're going to have to bring this one back, for sure. Let's put KAC, and we'll cut through here. Then I'll just make sure our topology is going to work correctly for us. Okay. Yeah, that's looking better blended into there. So now what I'll do is I'll get our back image. Go ahead and check that out. I'll see what we're missing. If I isolate just this image and take a look at it, looks like we can hide these pieces for now. And I want to observe this for a second. So what I'm going to do is grab a cube and scale it in. And we'll go in on the y-axis, unhide things, just because we know that it is ending up flush against here, so we want to keep that in mind. And then what I'll do is I'll try to build this inside shape with just the loop cuts if I can. But I might need my back image and a little bit of x-ray if possible. So I've got my reference image here, and what I know first and foremost, let's confirm by looking at one of the side angles, is it does round out on both of its sides. So it'll be flush against here. But then each of these corner edges will definitely be rounded. We'll do that a little bit later. So let's get the interior loop cuts first. I'll press Control B to take my loop cut and make it scale from the center. And it might really be as simple as that, but we'll definitely find out. So if these ones are all cut out, and I highlight them and press X to delete them, I wonder if I can grab these vertices and scale them out on the X-axis. And then we'll take a look at that image and see if they are parallel with each other, and it kind of is, but these bottom vertices scale out a little bit more. So despite the simplicity, that might be all we need. All we have to do is I'm going to grab these verts and I'll join them with F. And so then I'll go to edge mode and use the F2 add-on to join the rest. So even add our X-ray mode, joining them together, and that looks pretty decent. So let's see if we can make this a little shorter first. And now I am going to grab these corner edges, and we're going to bevel all of them. So that one's caught, and this one's caught, and this one's caught. I'll press Control B and add quite a couple. So I'll press Shade Auto Smooth. And it looks like we're going to have to manually add some sharps around here, or maybe we just decrease the auto angle to like 25. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to isolate this and see if we could be a little creative with how this would join in with the piece. To be honest, this is definitely not how it would work, but I'm going to press I to inset and then extrude it in. So if I press Alt H, there's a chance that you could see that. And so we'll isolate it again now. And what I'll do is I'll go to top view and I'll use the knife tool to cut across. And I'll do that again for this side. Now we have access to a control loop, and let's see what angle I want to keep this at. I'll bevel this side. And now we have these quads in the middle. So I'll grab the two strips and extrude them upwards. And if anything, we can bring this in just a tad. But then we'll have to decrease this to 20. And that looks pretty good. I don't think we're missing a detail in here. However, if I were to be a game artist, I would bevel the middle edge loop. And then I would add some sort of fake support system. Let's see if we could just grab this one. So I'm going to be a little crazy and bevel these. And then in these center ones, I'll put some details down, just like that. So I want to make a screw for this side really quick. So I'm going to hide everything and add a cylinder. 24 is going to be okay. I might push it and go 32. So we'll make it smaller and I'll bring it up. So we'll press S and Shift Z on everything to make it thinner. And then on this extrusion, what I'll do is delete this face and just grab the edges and press E, S, and that'll make it wider. I can press E, Z for the top of it, E, S again, and now we're creating this inner face. So I'll lift it up a little bit. I'll press E, Z again, and I'm just playing with the scale and its height. So I'm merging that with M and center. So the only thing I notice is that we could have a loop cut here. We could have a loop cut on the outside. And if we scale them together, then we can go to the top and potentially create those fake cuts. So I'm going to press K, A, and C. And I'll press K, A, C for each of these sides, because I want those flat strips that are extruded inwards. We're going to rebuild that shape. So K, A, C. We'll delete these faces. And I think we could just bridge them together now. So I'll grab one edge and press F. And then I can press F again, just clicking around, and it'll know which face to fill because of the F2 add-on. And that looks pretty good. I'll press Shade Auto Smooth. And I'll just press Alt H. Let's see if we can get it in there. So rotate it, bring it in, scale it down a little bit. I'm going to check out really quick if it's on the other side. And it isn't. That's where we're going to make our clamp. So that's okay. And that's pretty cool. I have a slight idea as to how we can approach this panel cut. So we're going to try something a little bit freaky. I'm going to go ahead and get a new plane. And I'll move it over here. And let's go ahead and try to match the shape we see over here. So I'm going to press S and Y. And I think I can extrude out a little bit more if I press E, S, and Y. And add a couple loop cuts around here. I'll scale these ones out. And we can start beveling these vertices with a new shortcut called Control-Shift-B. So instead of beveling the edges, we're beveling the actual vertices. So that'll smooth that shape out. And we can start seeing what is going to work best for us right here. I'm actually just going to grab this entire edge and bevel that. That should help us with the shape. So I'm just looking at this. That's not too bad. Could be better, but I think all we need to really do is just rescale these top faces. And then bring this down. So I'm going to extrude it. And what I'm going to do is add a solidify modifier. If I'm not mistaken, because it's extruding geometry all around this should be able to cut into our Boolean in a pretty unique fashion. I know it's super confusing because I didn't introduce the solidify modifier, but if I were to introduce it really quick, here's how I would do it. Let's say we worked really hard on creating a curved surface. Let's get our proportional editing. And instead of extruding it outwards, if you just needed a simple sheet, I would use the solidify modifier to then get the thickness variable and thicken that sheet. And that could be used for all sorts of different 3D things. Imagine this was just a curved curb we walked on. So I solidified the entire model, and that might help us create this gap that we need. So I'm seeing how far we need to push it. Let's scale this and then apply the transforms. So I'm going to go in, scale it. So I'm going to move it in place and see what we can do. Let's shade auto smooth, and I'm going to go to the guardrail and add a Boolean, and I believe we need the difference, and we'll select this new piece that we have. Its name is plane 2. So if I hide it, that is doing exactly what I thought it would. Let's unhide it and make it maybe a little thinner. It's a sort of access hatch. I could bring this in more. So even from afar, you know, it's not the most important detail. However, you'll notice that it's cool enough to actually bring it back to -0.05. So Pretty cool. We are definitely closer to the finish line than we think, and we're making a lot of progress, but there is some more work to do. Don't forget to subscribe if you've gotten this far, and I'll see you soon.